All right, let's dive in. If you think about it, 2025 was the year the AI boom went from a wave to an absolute tsunami. And right at the center of that storm was the world of memory, of DRAM. We're not just talking about slightly faster chips here. No, this was a full-blown, high-stakes race to build the very foundation of our AI future. It was a pivotal year, so let's break it down.
This quote from Nilesh Kamdar at Keysight just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The demand for data from these new AI models was just insatiable. It put this incredible pressure on the entire system. Suddenly, it wasn't just about raw processing power anymore. The real bottleneck, the thing holding everything back, was memory. The whole industry had to reinvent itself, and it had to do it fast.
So here's how we're going to walk through this story. First, we'll look at the AI memory boom itself. Then we get to the fun part, the clash of the titans in the HBM arena. After that, we'll hit the key inflection points of the year, navigate the really complex geopolitical game board, and finally, we'll look ahead to 2026.
Okay, so Section 1, the AI memory boom. You've got these massive language models, and they are just unbelievably hungry for data, both for training them and for running them. This created a bottleneck like we've never seen before. It turned advanced memory from, just another component into the single most critical resource in all of tech. It was a new gold rush, plain and simple.
And the solution to this huge bottleneck? It's this stuff, high bandwidth memory, or HBM. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine your old memory, like DDR4, is a two-lane country road. It's fine, but it gets jammed up. HBM, on the other hand, is a massive multi-lane superhighway. They literally stack the memory chips on top of each other to create this huge, direct pipeline for data to flood right into the AI processors. It's the key that unlocked that next level of AI performance.
So this brings us to the main event of 2025. With HBM now cemented as the most important resource, you had three giants, SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron, just throwing down in this fierce battle. And what was the ultimate prize? Well, it was getting their chips into the hardware made by the undisputed king of AI, NVIDIA.
At the start of the year, SK Hynix was the one to beat. They were the clear frontrunner. I mean, they played their cards so perfectly that their entire 2025 production of HBM was completely sold out before the year even really got going. That gave them a massive head start and just a dominant position in the market.
And this quote from the chairman of SK Group back in January, it's just incredible. For decades, it was always the suppliers scrambling to keep up with companies like NVIDIA. But SK Hynix moved so fast, so aggressively, that the roles completely flipped. They weren't just meeting demand, they were actually developing tech faster than their biggest customer was even asking for it. That's a real power shift.
But here's the thing, you can never ever count out a giant like Samsung. After what seemed like a bit of a slow start, they just mobilized their immense resources. By the third quarter, boom, they're reporting record memory sales, all fueled by this huge comeback in HBM3E. Mass production was in full swing, and they were already shipping out samples of the next generation, HBM4. The race was definitely on.
And man, you can really see just how tight that race became right here. Look at these incredibly aggressive timelines for HBM4. You've got SK Hynix building on that strong NVIDIA partnership, aiming to get samples out by June. But then Samsung, despite some earlier worries, comes roaring back, shipping samples to all their clients by Q3. And both of them were targeting mass production in the second half of the year. It was absolutely neck and neck.
And let's not forget the third titan in this fight. Micron made their intentions crystal clear with a staggering $7 billion investment in a new HBM facility in Singapore. This wasn't just a move to stay in the game. It was a huge signal of just how massive this market had become. Micron was all in.
And you have to understand, these massive bets weren't happening in a vacuum because 2025 wasn't just about the HBM competition. The whole ground was shifting. It was a year of these fundamental, game-changing shifts across the entire semiconductor landscape, a year of major inflection points that were redefining the industry's future.
The pace was just breathtaking. In January, SK Hynix is already showing off 16-layer HBM3E. That's like adding even more lanes to that data superhighway. By April, Samsung makes the bold move to stop making older DDR4 memory entirely. And then, in the second half of the year, you have both Intel and TSMC hitting these huge milestones, kicking off mass production of their next-gen 18A and 2nm processes. They were essentially pushing the boundaries of physics to make chips way more powerful and efficient for AI.
And this strategic pivot, this move away from the old guard, is so important. Companies like Samsung and Micron weren't just developing new tech.
They were actively shutting down the production lines for older stuff like DDR4. Why? To free up every last bit of manufacturing capacity. It was a huge industry-wide bet on a future that was going to be dominated by DDR5 and, most importantly, by HBM.
So, as if all that technological drama wasn't enough, you had the whole geopolitical game board just heating up like crazy. Suddenly, things like national interests, tariffs, and government policy became just as important as R&D budgets in deciding company strategy and really the shape of the entire global supply chain.
It was like a high-stakes chess match. On one side, you have the US making some really aggressive moves, threatening massive tariffs, extending tax credits, adding Chinese companies like the DRAM maker CXMT to military-linked lists, and even taking an $8.9 billion stake in Intel to boost manufacturing at home. And on the other side, you see China just doubling down on its goal of self-sufficiency, launching a massive $47 billion fund and planning to consolidate its industry to create national champions.
And all this geopolitical pressure led to one of the wildest rumors of the year. This idea of a potential forced alliance between two of the fiercest rivals out there, TSMC and Intel. The fact that the US government might be actively pushing for a partnership like this just to bring the most advanced chip making onto American soil, well, that shows you just how high the stakes had become. This wasn't just about business anymore, it was about national security.
So, after that turbulent, transformative, just absolutely wild year, where does that leave us? 2025 really set the stage for an even more intense 2026. The big question now is, who's in the best position to win the next leg of this race for AI dominance?
As we look ahead, there are a few huge questions we need to be watching. First, HBM4 execution. Can Samsung's big comeback really close the gap on SK Hynix? Second, those new factories. Will Micron's huge Singapore facility and others get up and running fast enough to meet the insane demand? Third, the geopolitical fallout. How will trade policy continue to shake up the global map? And finally, those next-gen nodes from Intel and TSMC. Will they deliver on their promises? Their success is critical for literally the entire ecosystem.
So, after a year that completely rewrote the rules of the game, the board is reset for 2026. This next year is going to test everything, not just engineering skill, but strategic execution and the ability to navigate some very tricky politics. The stage is set. The question is, who's going to win? The race is far from over.